everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe and like this video so more people can find me as you did. Wow, last week's episode was, in my books, viral for me. Because most of my episodes only get a handful of views, but this one got over 1,200 and I am ecstatic. Thank you guys so much for listening, for watching. It means the world to me to be able to share these stories with you and to get some feedback. Speaking of the feedback, before we jump into this week's episode, I do want to make a point on last week's story about Dogman. A few of you mentioned in the comments that that's not exactly what I saw per your opinion, that it was a Wendigo or a skinwalker. I kind of agree with you, and I've been only stuck on that term Dogman because frankly that's the first time I had ever heard an identifier attached to what I saw. So if I take that identifier away and I really look at Wendigo, I'm more leaning that way and really, because I really don't know. I told you guys last week, I don't know what it was. I can only go by experience and your feedback and learn. So with that, let's change it up. I'm not going to change the thumbnail. I'm not going to change how I told the story. The story will stand as is. But I'm going to agree with you and say it's probably a Wendigo. And further to that, I did mention that it felt completely evil. And then my friend had mentioned the thing about the Devil's Pass going through that area. I would even attach the D word to those. I can't even get the words out because I get fully body chilled anytime I think about it. But I would attach demon to that because it was, God knows. And yeah, again, speechless. Okay, who's ready for this week's episode? It's a pretty long story. I mean, the actual event took hours upon hours. I mean, from like dusk till dawn. And I think I might actually break this story up into at least 2 parts, if not 3. I will give you a heads up that the end of this story does carry on into and make connection with the story from Blackbrook Cemetery where I saw the witch. So if you haven't heard that one yet, go back and listen to that one before you listen to the end of this series. So that might be next week or the week after, depending on how long this goes. I might break it up into at least 2 parts, if not 3. Okay, so let's get into it. From Cape Breton, it's Saturday night. Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. Where do I start with this one? Oh my. As I scratch my head and I wonder, maybe I just start at the beginning. It always seems like the logical place to start. Okay, and I guess the beginning would be a bunch of friends hanging out at an apartment. We're all late teens, early 20s, and we kind of just, what's the word I'm looking for? We kind of just hang out on a nightly basis. We're not hanging out downtown, so to speak. The downtown crew was about 50 plus of us that used to hang around. The majority of us didn't cause any shit, but there was definitely those that were a little bit more adventurous. I'm not one of them. I definitely didn't partake in any bad activity. Let's put it that way. I was always too nervous. Too nervous of getting in trouble. I don't like getting in trouble. Okay, so it's back 1995. And the group of us, there's probably, let me just count out who was there at the end of the night. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were 6 of us left in the apartment, and it was a 1-bedroom apartment, and we were just hanging out. But there were 6 of us left at dawn. Backing that up to when this event actually started, there was probably a few more people there. I can't exactly remember. They might have left. I can't remember that. So we're hanging out, and this apartment is in an old, like, Victorian style home that was converted into 5 or 6 apartments. And a friend of mine had rented it probably a year before this event, and he ended up like changing it over to another friend of ours because he ended up moving out with his girlfriend. She was having a baby. Okay, so the other friend has taken over the lease and he's now living there. And again, there's a bunch of us that kind of like use this as home base, and we kind of crash there, sleep on the couch, sleep on the floor. You know how it is when you're in your teens and early 20s. So we're just like chilling. Some nights we're playing cards. We would play cards for hours, and this certain card game you had to have a partner and 4 people play at a time. So locally here, if you're into playing this card game, you're always quote unquote looking for a 4th so that you can play. And it's maximum, and there's no gambling involved. We're just playing for points, basically. Whoever gets to a certain number of points faster, whichever team, they win. But this certain night, I think we were going to watch a movie. In the living room of this home, of this apartment, there were 2 queen-size sofas, one against kitchen wall and one against an exterior wall, and they were facing each other. So one was on one side of the room, one was on the other side of the room. And in between, there was a big open space, and the television entertainment little area was in between the 2 sofas against the bedroom wall. So we have a wall against the kitchen, a wall against the bedroom, and 2 exterior walls because we had like a corner apartment. And we're all sitting around, and I think at this point either some people had left to go rent a movie, or I don't know what they were doing. But we were kind of just chilling, waiting for everybody to be there. And I was sitting on one sofa, the sofa against the kitchen wall, with a girl. I can't remember who. We were just sitting there chatting. A guy I knew, part of the group. All right, where was I? Sorry, guys, I had to take a little stop there. My pizza was done in the oven. Okay, so I was on one sofa, the one against the kitchen wall, chatting with a young girl. When I say young, probably the same age as me. I was around 19. So she was roughly 18, 19 maybe. And we were chatting, and across the room on the other sofa was a guy, I think he was around 22. Probably one of the older people in the group of us all. And he was chatting to another girl. But he was kind of quiet. And when I say quiet, like he looked really, I don't know, depressed, down. Something wrong with him anyway. And I mean that in the nicest way. But I could just feel his energy. I felt that there was something off. So, and this guy and I, we had chatted a few times, like within the group, but we weren't besties or nothing. Like, it's not like I knew his deepest, darkest secrets, or I knew really anything about him besides his name and that he hung around with us. And that's kind of the way it goes when you're a young adult and you have a lot of acquaintances or friends. Anyway, so he's sitting on the sofa, looking all down for the count, so to speak. And I look over at him, and again, I'm feeling that energy. So I ask him, may I ask you a few questions? They're personal. And he says, yeah, okay. And I ask him like 2 or 3 questions right in a row. And I can't remember what I asked him, but they were personal. Like, did this happen in your childhood? Have you ever experienced blah, blah, blah? Do you know this or that? But they were specific and they were personal to him. And he looked at me, and he just got this weird look on his face. And he got up. He didn't really say much. He nodded his head when I asked him the questions, but he didn't say very much. And he got up off that sofa and quietly sauntered into the little small bedroom off the living room. And again, it's a one bedroom, so he went in there. All that was in there was a dresser. I think there might have been a small closet, but I don't really remember that. And a twin bed. Like, this was a small room for a one bedroom apartment. So he goes in there and he's sitting on the bed. And I'm still sitting there. Now I feel bad. Like, dude, did I just ask you something super, super personal? Like, did I trigger you in some way? So I was kind of feeling really bad about it. And he wasn't coming out. He was really quiet, and I thought he might be very upset. Either upset with the situation, upset with memories, or upset with me. So after about 15, 20 minutes, it could have been even longer than that, the sun was now setting. I go into the little bedroom, and I sit near the head of the bed because he's sitting on the bed closer to the foot of the bed. So I sit near the head of the bed and facing him, and he's all quiet and looks really, really sad. And I ask him, "Are you okay? Did I upset you?" And he doesn't say a word, doesn't look at me, doesn't mutter anything, not a whisper. So I say again, "Are you okay?" Still crickets. Nothing. So finally I say, "Would you like me to leave you alone?" And that's when he opens his eyes and he looks at me. And he said, "No, I'd like you to stay. There's something I need to show you." Now I'm getting a little creeped out. And I'm thinking, what the hell is up with this dude? Little backstory on me at this point. Again, I'm 19 years old when this story takes place. And this is a true story. I have yet to have a boyfriend. I was always a bigger girl, so I had low self-confidence, very low self-esteem. I knew my worth and I knew how to use my voice. But I was intimidated by guys. I still kind of am. It's just something, I don't know what it is, but I am. And when it came to that moment, I was, again, sitting there, vulnerable, alone in this little one bedroom. And everybody else was out in the kitchen or the living room. The lights were out. It was dark outside by this point. And I don't know this guy. So I'm getting very, very uncomfortable and very nervous. And what I'm wearing, I can't remember the clothing, but what I'm wearing around my neck and what I wore every day, never took it off, was my crucifix. My parents had purchased and gifted me a crucifix that was blessed by a priest a few Christmases prior to this. And I had worn it every single day. In the shower, wore it to bed, never took it off. I still have this crucifix. And I had this around my neck. So I felt a little safe with that, because the energy was definitely shifting in the room. I didn't know if it was this guy that was going to be an ass, or if it was something more otherworldly, So he says again, "I want you to stay. There's something I need to show you." So I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. What do you need to show me? I'm just worried that I upset you." He's like, No, you didn't upset me. You got everything right. And that kind of freaks me out. Okay, I mean, that's fair. This guy doesn't know me either. And here I am spewing out his personal business in the living room, shouting it across the room. So he tells me that he can do this thing, and it's happened to him a few times back where he's from. And he's from this island I live on, but another small town that's a few hours away from the city. So he says he's done this thing a few times and he doesn't know what it is exactly, but when he gets really, really, really vulnerable, really upset, this thing just takes hold of him. And he wanted to show it to me. He wanted to make sure I was prepared, that I wasn't scared, and I could handle it. I said, dude, I can handle anything. I'm good. Whatever you want to show me, I'm good. So he bows his head, and he's sitting kind of like crisscross applesauce, you know, and he's got his hands down on his knees. And I'm kind of like just mimicking his stance on the bed. And he puts his head down, and then he lifts his head. This guy's my height. He's a short dude, and he's thin. He's got blue eyes. I mean, bright blue eyes. You can see them in the dark. They're that, that nice piercing blue. But anyway, he opens his eyes after he looks up, and nothing. Like, I don't see nothing. I don't feel nothing. I said, so what did you want to show me? And he's like, oh, it's not happening yet. Hold on. And he bows his head again. And this time, his head is bowed for a good, 5 minutes or so. And you can feel the energy getting thick in the room. Like, there's something not right going on. The same energy I was feeling in the living room. And this time, his head comes up slowly. And his eyes open. It feels like it's taking an eternity. But they open so slowly. And those piercing blue eyes are gone. They are gone. I'm speechless. I have no idea what I'm looking at. But his eyes are black. Every ounce of the area of his eyeball is black. So black I can see that it's black. And yeah, if you've ever seen black-eyed kids or black-eyed children, that kind of black eye look, that's what he had going on. And again, this is 1995. We don't have smartphones for Googling shit. If you're lucky, you might have a computer at home, but most computers are in school. I was out of school at this time, and the internet wasn't a booming thing that was taking over the world at this time. So I had really no reference to think, what could this be? Is this paranormal? I mean, the energy was telling me that there was something off here. But other than that, I had no reference. So I looked at his eyes, and immediately, as soon as he opened them and I saw they were black, my body was covered in goosebumps. I had goosies from head to toe. I had goosies in my ears and my nose. I was covered. And I was terrified. I was so scared. I think I started trembling and my heart was skipping beats because that's how scared I was. And I looked at him, and at this point, I'm holding his hands where they're resting on his knees, as he's sitting. And I squeeze his hand a little bit. I just give it a small little squeeze. And I laugh. Ha 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 ha. I told you couldn't scare me. as I'm looking at these eyes. And I continue to stare back. And then whatever it is, whatever's taking control of this guy, starts squeezing my hands back. And did I mention he's a short dude, pretty skinny, had a fairly girlish high-pitched voice, no judgment. So when he started to speak, his voice sounded different. All of a sudden it was really deep. I mean, deeper than I can even pretend to show you. It was definitely deeper than this dude could produce. I assure you. And I instinctively knew I'm dealing with something serious here. So by this point, we've been sitting in this room for probably an hour. And one of my friends comes in, he pokes his head in the room and he asks, "Is everything okay?" And I'm still holding this guy's hands. He's still squeezing my hands. And I'm sitting there and I look up at this guy that's poked his head in the room. And I look at him and I give him this look and I say to him, "No, it's not okay." And I'm going to start calling it this thing because my friend was gone. Like, he was fully possessed by whatever this was. So he starts squeezing my hand even harder. And so I turned my attention back to him. I said, "Go ahead, squeeze my hands. You can't hurt me." And this thing says, "Why not?" Because I'm protected. I am protected and you cannot hurt me. He said, "Well, that's fine. I came for him anyway." He said, "But I'm holding on to him and my protection goes through to him and you cannot have him." So at this point, I know I'm in for something pretty serious. Like I said, this is heavy. So I'm not going to let go of this guy's hands, but I let go of one just to reach up and pull my crucifix out and place it over my shirt so my friend can see it through the eyes of whatever's looking at me. And as this thing is talking to me in this deep, growly voice, I hear underneath that growly voice, "Help me, can you help me?" in a little boy voice. So I know, unless this guy is like super talented and in the Guinness Book of World Records, he's speaking in one tone, just monstrous voice, and then slips in a little bit of a little boy voice, a whisper underneath it at the same time. No, sir. No. Not falling for that. There's something going on here. So I say to the thing, "Who the fuck are you?" And he doesn't answer me. Doesn't give two shits that I'm sitting there, that I'm protected, that I'm not letting him do whatever he was meaning to do. And he starts freaking out at me, cursing at me, as I start my prayer, "Our Father, who art in heaven," blah, 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 blah. Now, I was born and raised Catholic. I am a Reformed Catholic, whatever that means, whatever this whole thing means. I believe in God, I believe in angels, I believe in ghosts, I believe in the spiritual world, and I believe in heaven and I believe in hell. But I'm not a practicing Catholic, I don't go to church. But on this night, I was quoting the prayer. I'm saying it out loud, I'm saying it as loud as I can, so this thing can know I mean business too. And I, again, have not had a boyfriend. I've not even kissed a guy yet. I'm still a virgin. And I have a blessed crucifix around my neck. I'm like pure on pure here. Protected pure. So this thing is not getting anything through my shield. He is freaking out. And when I say freaking out, he is losing his shit. He's yelling, he's swaying back and forth, like rocking. He's starting to sweat. He's panting as I recite the Lord's Prayer. And he's telling me through all of this to shut up, to stop. So I know I'm dealing with definite evil. I've never dealt with anything like that before, nor since. Okay guys, so that's it for this week. You're gonna have to tune in next week to see how this story ends. I really appreciate you guys being here, and until next week, take care, friends.